Hey, what's up, everybody? This is an open discussion with C3 Films. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we are going to be talking about the Martin Scorsese film Shutter Island. So we are going into spoiler territory, and it's kind of important for this movie. You don't like, yeah, you just it's going to ruin the entire movie if you haven't seen it. So if you're interested in seeing it, go check it out. And right currently it's on Netflix. And then yeah, and after that, come back and watch this. Let's talk about it. But let's go ahead and get right into it. This movie it's kind of a mystery thriller type feel of a movie. I I can appreciate this movie for the fact that it builds a mystery that is interesting, and I feel like it plays with tension very well with the music and the atmosphere and how it's shot, and that really works well for kind of always feeling like there's this sense of unease while you're going through this movie and following our characters.
Yeah, I remember when I tried to watch it when it first came out, and because I really liked Leonardo DiCaprio,
Yeah.
because of Titanic, but it it just like it was too scary for me, so I didn't want to watch it anymore. It was just too much for me. And then going back to watch it again, I realized it's not really scary. It just gives
Mhm.
you a lot of anxiety. And I
Yes.
think a lot of it comes from it just being stressful because literally the entire time you don't know what's going on. And the main character is also trying to figure out what is going on. And it actually like it gave me an actual headache from like the especially when he was in the cave and he was talking to the doctor in the cave and the flame was like right in front of her face and it kept flickering and it was like flashing and I was like I can't watch this. I had to take a break at that point and then come back to it later because it was just too much for me.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah, this is my second time seeing the movie. I remember watching it for the first time like a couple of years back. I saw it with my cousin, and I had this feeling like I I I remember not liking the movie that much because of the ending. I didn't really enjoy the ending, and I felt like a lot of people were praising the ending. Um, Watching it back again, I don't feel like this is a bad movie. I might still feel like it might be a little overrated, but at the same time, it does a lot of good. It does a lot of things well. It's Martin Scorsese. There's a lot of like good ideas in here. It's a lot of good choices, cinematography. The mystery is built up well, and watching it this time, knowing what's going to happen, it was fun to kind of pull out the hints while I'm watching it, and I can understand that okay, this person is aware of the situation and they know the truth about like the reveal that's coming at the end, and it's there. And those are like that's when movies are fun to watch, is when you can have a mystery that plays out and then go back and look at the movie and see how the answer was kind of right in front of your face. They even say verbatim they talk verbatim like in dialogue about how there's this one the character that they claim escaped, how that character created a whole fictional world for herself, and they say it to Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Eddie or Teddy, Edward, and it's basically the movie telling you this is what's going to happen, but you don't know because, as far as you know, he got there for the first time that morning on the raft, and you're not expecting the entirety of the psychiatric hospital to be in on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I didn't really pick up on it until about halfway through. That's when I started to suspect, like, oh, what if he's crazy? And then he starts, like, hallucinating and seeing his wife and stuff like that. And I think they try to play it off with, like, they gave him pills and stuff. And so they try to trick you to into thinking that like oh maybe they were giving him something and that's why he's only now starting to hallucinate But then I was like, wait, what if he is crazy? And what if Chuck really isn't real and that he was just imagining it the whole time? And I was like, wait. No. Because they were talking to him too and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And so I just like let it play out to the end. And I think that it, I didn't really like the reveal. I thought it was interesting where they like made it that twist where like actually he's crazy and he's visiting it like the crazy ward and everything. Um,
Hmm.
so I do like that they had that twist, but I feel like the reveal was just not shocking enough. And the reason why I feel that they did it that way, why they made the reveal so long, and that's why it wasn't shocking, is because it was a really long conversation
It
to
was.
have the reveal. And I think that the reason why they did that is because it was kind of designed for people who were still not sure, and that they wanted to make you continue to question if he is crazy or not.
Like if they're lying to him.
Yeah, if is it that he's crazy or is it really a conspiracy?
Right. Yeah, it seemed like that's what they were trying to build up. Because I remember my feeling when I first saw the movie was that, oh, I would get the feeling that he is crazy, and I get the feeling that this is all in his head. And I don't know if I remember thinking to myself that he was a patient, but I felt like I was going to get to the end of the movie and it was going to be like he's the problem. Um, and so when they introduced and like watching it for the second time, because I had forgotten about the introduction of how they try to steer you in a different direction by it's just like, oh, they're doing experiments on people here. You've had the pills and like you were saying. And I watching it this time I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. I like the fact that they are trying to swerve you. I like the tug and pull of is he crazy? Is he not? Like is there a conspiracy? But there was a part of me that was kind of like I kind of am interested in what this conspiracy is. If they went with this angle, this is kind of interesting to me. Um and so yeah, but I did figure out kind of near the beginning that Mark Ruffalo's character Chuck that he was Dr. Shaheen, uh, because of the fact that it's little things, but when he has to take his gun holster off, it lingers a little long, like he has trouble with it, and even Leonardo DiCaprio looks at him like, "You do this all the time. How are you not able to take the gun off?" And then the other part where the woman tells him to run in the paper, but she like looks at Dr. Shaheen and Dr. Shaheen looks at her, and then in that moment I was like, okay, he's not a cop. He's I think and the doctor's not here, he's probably the doctor. So there was like little moments like that, and I felt like that's not too hard to figure out, and maybe the movie what it wasn't the intention for that to be hard to figure out. But the mystery that the movie builds up kind of and sometimes kind of feels more interesting than what's actually happening. And maybe that's why when I first saw this movie I really didn't like the ending was because of the fact that it fell flat for me too. And I guess I felt kind of disappointed. And so when everybody started talking about how like great the movie was and how surprising, I was kind of like, what did we watch the same movie? Like, and I don't know if you had a similar feeling on your first viewing this time.
I mean, it. I was just kind of okay. Like I didn't think the movie was
Mhm.
impressive. I wasn't shocked about the twist. If anything, I had more fun going back and watching it again so that I could really see like how they were playing it's definitely more fun to watch it a second time than it is to watch it the
Yeah.
first time. Because then you could really see like, oh, like they are hinting at. There's a lot of hints, but they're so like subtle and they're so like not like in your face that it just feels like clever. Like even the whole like gun holster thing, I didn't really pick up on that the first time because I didn't know what I was looking for, if
Right.
anything. And I wasn't really paying attention to the fact that they actually lingered on it for quite a while. They even like did a close up on it. And you know when they do a close up on something, it means they really want you to pay attention to it. Um, but it just like flew past me, and you know the other little things like just the direction that the characters are looking, like they look at the doctor, and you know there's just these little itty bitty hints that are like, yes, they're hints, but when you're watching it the first time, it just kind of feels weird, like what's going
Yeah.
on. It feels like a conspiracy. Um, but I mean, I guess it was a conspiracy because they were tricking him. They were doing a role play. So
Right.
that's probably why it felt that way.
No, exactly. And I like the fact that you watched it twice so that we could both have this kind of experience of our first feelings and then our second feelings. Because initially I wanted to put this movie on, it wasn't that good because of the fact that I remember from my memory not liking it that much. Um, and rewatching it now, I did feel like, okay, that's a little unfair. I don't think it's a bad movie. Um, I I don't even think it's like a movie where it's like necessarily not that good. Um, I guess I just feel like maybe the twist isn't that good, but in general, like the movie is pretty well done. I have to give it to them. Like you were just talking about like the hints and everything. That's the making of just good story like planning and putting things in there. um then there's also just the way the movie is shot. Like the movie is very beautiful in certain sequences of like the hallucinations, and even the flashback sequences are very horrific, but they are still like they're interesting shots. Even the shot where like one of the German soldiers tries to kill himself, and it's like the camera's just looking straight down on him on the floor, and you see his face and the blood pooling. A lot of these shots just look visually interesting or appealing, even if the nature of what you're looking at is kind of horrific.
Yeah, there was a lot of imagery. It felt really artistic, specifically crafted. And I actually think that, you know, we were talking about Gunpowder Milkshake earlier. It felt kind of like interesting to have paired these two movies together today because I feel like both of them had a lot of world building
Hmm.
in their sets and the way that they shot everything. You could tell how much design is in there because they built it. Like they didn't go somewhere and shoot it. They actually built the set. They built everything that you see in the shot in the frame. Um, they built it. They put it there
Yeah.
intentionally. It's kind of like, you know, when with an animated film, everything that you see, they put it there because they're not going off to shoot it in a location. That's how this felt. Like that's how this movie felt. That's how Gunpowder Milkshake felt. Um, for everything, I guess, except for you know when they're doing the stuff on the island. But
Hmm.
for like the flashbacks, that's when it gets really, really artsy.
Super artsy. There's this one scene where his wife is holding a liquor bottle, talking about "Are you ever sober?" in one shot. They cut away, and when they cut back to her, she doesn't have the liquor bottle in her hand anymore, but she's still holding her hand up as if she does. And it was almost one of those like blinking you miss it moments for me, where I was just like, wait, was that, did they just mess up? Was that a continuity error? But no, it's like it was absolutely intentional. Um, Even like certain dialogue things that people say to each other is, they're repeated, or they prop up again and later in the movie. And yeah, so it's just like those, there's a lot of very well crafted and very meticulous planning and plants that are placed throughout this movie. And that's something that I personally can appreciate, even if I might not necessarily like appreciate the story or whatever. I can appreciate all this work that went into like crafting this space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's kind of exactly how I felt. It was just a very well crafted movie, and I think you definitely appreciate it more when you watch it the second time because then you notice all the little details that were put in. Um, but yeah, the ending did kind of, you know, crumble for me. Like it just wasn't very impactful. Like it was an ending. Like, you know, it was like it built up a lot just to have like it end like it just ended. Not like
Yeah,
a wow, this is how it ends kind of thing.
right. There wasn't a feeling of oh my gosh or or aha. Like it, it's weird, but yeah, because it feels like the movie wants you to do that, but it's lacking. It's not really there, and they don't do like the whole thing where they cut back to like the little hints so that you can see like see this was this and this was that, and they don't do that. So I guess the movie could really expect for its audience to kind of just like remember and put it together, rather than just go back and actually show you. But it's strange because we've read mysteries, we've seen a lot of mystery movies. We talked about Knives Out on this show at one point, and Knives Out does do the thing where it kind of goes back and shows you the clues, like when they're giving you the answer of who done it or whatever, and it does feel like a kind of aha moment. But Knives Out's also multiple aha moments, so maybe that's why Knives Out feels a little bit more fulfilling in that way. But obviously, this is a different style of movie. It's handled differently, and therefore, yeah, like you said, it doesn't work for me as well as an ending, and the initial viewing isn't as much fun because you don't know what's happening and you're trying to figure it out, and then you get to the end and it doesn't really doesn't feel great. It doesn't really fill you with a feeling of yes.
Yeah.
So but watching it the second time, I can see absolutely you're right. Like you get more knowing. It's almost like this movie is made to be enjoyed more than once and made to be enjoyed more the second time you experience it.
Yeah. I mean, just watching it once, like the first time, it kind of felt like, like you're on a roller coaster and you're going up
Mm-hmm.
really, really high, really, really high. And like once you get to the top, it's just like a gentle glide down.
Yeah, so you don't like come crashing down. Yeah, just kind of coasting.
Yeah.
So one other thing though that I did like about the ending, and I use like very loosely, is the scene where Leonardo DiCaprio comes home and finds his dead kids. Uh, for me, that scene, like, I don't remember having that scene affect me that much the first time, but watching it this time, even though I knew it was coming, it really struck me. It really I've and this is when we were talking about how like Leonardo gets these opportunities to play these really awesome roles and gets to really show his acting chops off. But he plays that scene very well. Like you feel his anguish and that the way the scene like builds. Like this is like I think this is like one of the best tension scenes in the movie where he comes home, it's quiet, he doesn't see his wife, he comes outside, he sees her, then he goes to talk to her. You don't even know they have kids, but he's talking to her, she's acting kind of weird, then he says, "Wait, where are the kids?" She's like, "Oh, they're at school. It's a Saturday." And you can just feel the rising tension. And then the camera cuts to the lake and you see just these three like basically humps in the water, and and he knows, and then the way the rest of that scene plays out with his anguish and his pain, it's impressive, and I was impressed by it. So that scene, I have actually I have more appreciation for that specific sequence within the ending than the ending itself.
Mhm. Yeah. I feel like it was hard to watch actually because
Mm-hmm.
it was so sad and it was just kind of, gruesome. Um
Yeah.
very rated R.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you have kids and you care about kids, like, well, it's hard. They're like the kids are there, they are dead.
Yeah.
Um,
Even if you don't
you
like
know,
kids, it's hard to watch. Like, and it's hard to
true.
see, the kids, and also knowing that stuff like that does happen in real life. It's not far off from reality. Um, I mean, yeah, no wonder he went mad.
Right? And even the thing he went mad for, I was wondering. I was like, I feel like at a different time, he might have been treated a little differently because at first I thought he was going to be the one that killed his kids, but he didn't actually kill his kids. His wife did. He killed his wife, and even him killing his wife almost felt like an act of mercy because she was just so far gone, and there was not. It was almost like putting a like, pardon the like comparison, but it was almost like putting a straight like a rabid animal down, like that attacked like a kid or that bit somebody, and you know that there's no bringing it back. When he's talking to her and he wants to try to find some semblance that their sanity's still there, but through her dialogue, talking about propping the kids up and treating them like living dolls and everything else like that, it's disturbing. And you can almost see in his eyes where he comes to the conclusion that I can't help her, I can't save her, and I let her down. When you find out later that he knew, or she told him about like insects in her brain clicking at her skull and scratching at her skull or whatever, and not realizing that she was mentally ill. um yeah, you see the moment where he's like, yeah, I all I can do is put her down. But so this movie is kind of almost, it's also a kind of a message about mental health and how far we've come now with our knowledge about what mental health is, but how mental health looked to people back then. Because even the whole thing about lobotomies, right? Like that was how we thought that we could deal with these kind of situations, but clearly that's not something we use anymore.
Hmm. I did kind of want to like talk about the end as well, when
Mm-hmm.
he's sitting. He finally accepted that he is Andrew, and that he made all this stuff up, and
Yeah, the last line of the movie.
yeah, and he basically tells he starts going on about like the conspiracy again with the doctor. And so then they like decide, oh yeah, so all this, it didn't help, so he still lost it. um it didn't fix him. And then the last thing he says is, would you rather live as a monster or die as a good man? And then he walks off, and that's when you really like realize, to me, I don't know what this said to you, but to me it said that that he is willingly going through it, that the treatment actually did work, but he doesn't want to live with himself anymore.
Yeah, the treatment worked, but it's too painful for him to have to live every day knowing that he killed his wife and that his wife killed their kids and that
Mm-hmm.
he could have done something to stop it. That trauma is too much for him to bear. Like he actually says it during their first breakthrough, or during the initial breakthrough. He says that when they ask him, why did you make this stuff up? He says, I made this stuff up because I couldn't live with the idea that this woman that I loved killed our children. And in this moment, yeah, I think that, and I could be wrong, but I feel like it's meant to be ambiguous, where it could be that he broke through, and then it could be kind of like the spinning top at the end of Inception. But my reading of it is the same as yours. I like the reading of, it worked, but it was too painful, and so he chose basically to euthanize himself because that's the only way that he could think to go on living.
Yeah, and he doesn't resist. He just goes along with it. He follows the orderlies. He doesn't make a fuss. So, to me, I'm like, yeah, he's totally
Aware.
sentient, and yeah, and he's just going with it because he's done.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Um, and that I like. That's probably the thing I like the most about this entire. We spent a lot of time talking about the ending as a whole. That specific element is what I like the most because of the fact that it I guess your reading of it can change, but it means more. Seeing you see it the first time, it means something. Watch it the second time, knowing where everything's going to go, and then hearing him say it again, it feels like it means more. So, and I love the fact that the movie just ends. I'm glad the movie doesn't show you it happen. It just kind of cuts. It shows the lighthouse, and you know what's going, and then it cuts to black. So, and the music is great in that moment too. It's very creepy and it's very depressing. This is a dark movie, and it's not a happy ending. You almost kind of wish that it's like, oh, he was magically better. He broke through and he was able to live with himself. But I feel like this was the best. I feel like this was the best ending that this movie could have. This specific ending for this character is the best ending that they could give him. That makes the most sense, and that feels good to me. That actually feels better than the explanation of what's happening. This moment is great.
Yeah, it was just getting there that was kind of rough, but I think the way they closed the movie tied it up pretty nicely. I agree with you. The score is really good. Kind of reminded me of Jaws, but just the way that they even placed the music in this movie, where it's just like really really powerful at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, and like it gives you a lot of anxiety at points, but it's just, there's a lot of moments where there is no music at all, and you
Yeah,
still
yeah,
get that same anxiety and feeling, and that again, like we said earlier, it's just a really well crafted movie.
yeah. Absolutely. So, I mean, I think I feel like that's basically it. But is there any kind of lingering thoughts you have that you want to get out before we end here?
um no, I think that was all I had to say. Yeah. Oh, the
Yeah.
CGI was bad.
The CGI was bad.
Yeah, like at the beginning, I was like, yeah, that's CGI background. Like, anytime that they were in a dangerous area, like the bottom of the cliff, yeah, that's CGI background. I was like, is there no wind on this boat?
You can't fool Cheryl.
What a
She's
calm
watching you,
ocean.
filmmakers.
You could just light your cigarette. And there's my hair is not even moving a little.
I love it. Yep, yep. Cheryl can see your CG. Get better CG. They didn't pay Martin Scorsese for CG. They paid him for storytelling. Oh man. Well, that's what we thought about Shutter Island. What did you guys think about it? Did you see the twist coming? Did you like the twist? Like, how did the ending affect you? Did the whole thing work, or were you like us, where it's just kind of bits and pieces? Whatever you thought, comment below. Let us know. And while you're down there, if you give us a like, share, and subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, and we will see you all next time.